Hello everyone, and welcome to Earth Archives. Every New Year's Eve, fireworks light up the skies and crowds fill the streets around the world. We laugh, embrace, and count down together to welcome a brand new year. But have you ever wondered, why does almost the entire world use the Gregorian calendar as the standard for measuring time? What seems like a natural fact actually hides thousands of years of intertwined civilizations and evolution. We'll take you on a journey through history, from lunar calendars to solar calendars, from ancient Rome to the modern global calendar system, and explore the unique and fascinating New Year customs from different countries. If you're interested in history, culture, or the evolution of human civilization, or if you're looking for key information about New Year's traditions, calendars, or the origins of timekeeping, you definitely don't want to miss today's exciting content. So hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and leave us a comment to share. Let's invite more people to explore this amazing journey through time together. Speaking of New Year's Eve, every December 31st night, it's like the whole world is magically lit up, vibrant, bustling, and filled with fireworks bursting across the sky. Music and laughter rise and fall. Everyone counts down and shares hugs and blessings. The whole world seems to welcome a fresh start, with an atmosphere bursting with excitement. But have you ever paused to wonder a little question? Why do most countries in the world use the same calendar? Yes, the familiar Gregorian calendar. This may seem natural, but behind it lies an incredibly fascinating and complex history. Today, let's dive into the story of how the Gregorian calendar came to be. Why did it stand out from so many other calendars to become the global standard? And just how fun and interesting are the colorful, unique New Year customs from around the world? Ready? Let's hop on our time machine and start from the moment humanity first began to understand time. When it comes to calendars, we first need to start with how humans began to measure time. In ancient times, people's lives were completely dependent on natural cycles. For example, the sun rises in the east every day and sets in the west at night, creating the rhythm of day and night. The moon constantly changes shape, from new moon to full moon to waning crescent, forming the lunar phases. And then there is the cycle of the four seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. These natural phenomena were like time markers given by nature itself, helping humans understand how the world operated. At first, humans' understanding of time was very primitive, perhaps simply counting days on their fingers or observing the moon's changes. Gradually, they realized these patterns were crucial, especially in agricultural societies where knowing when to plant and when to harvest was vital for survival. For example, winter brings colder temperatures unsuitable for planting, while spring brings renewal and is the ideal time to sow seeds. So, people began trying to create a calendar, using the cycles of the sun, moon, and seasons, turning scattered natural changes into a predictable and calculable system. The earliest calendars were probably very simple, just recording each lunar phase cycle. Since the moon completes a cycle roughly every 29.5 days, the concept of a month was easy to observe and intuitive. Many ancient civilizations based their calendars on the moon, such as Babylon, ancient Egypt, and even China, all of which had lunar-based calendars. But relying solely on the lunar cycle had a problem. 12 lunar months total about 354 days, which is significantly shorter than the solar year, about 365.24 days. This discrepancy meant that the seasons would gradually drift apart from the calendar over time. To solve this problem, different civilizations began to adjust their calendars by adding leap months, or leap days. The Chinese lunar calendar is a typical example of a lunisolar calendar that takes into account both the moon's phases and the sun's movements. By inserting a leap month, it aligns the seasons accurately, ensuring farming activities occur at the right time. These efforts reflect the ancient people's increasingly refined understanding of time and demonstrate how they wisely utilized natural cycles to create calendar systems suited to their daily lives. Archaeologists' discoveries are truly astonishing. The earliest traces of calendars date back to about 10,000 years ago during the Mesolithic era. Imagine Scotland at that time, where people carved rows of small pits into stones to carefully record the waxing and waning of the moon. This ancient and simple log could calculate a year consisting of 12 months. Such intelligence is admirable and shows us that early humans' perception of time was far deeper than we might have imagined. These pits are not random marks. They are evidence of humanity's earliest attempts to understand and quantify time. It's no exaggeration to call them the most primitive timetables. Although people back then couldn't write or use complex calculation tools, they were able to accurately track the passage of time by observing the lunar cycle. This keen sensitivity to nature laid the foundation for the later development of calendars. Fast forward to about 5,000 years ago, in the Mesopotamian region between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Sumerians developed a more systematic calendar. Compared to the simple pits carved into stones, they divided time with greater precision and regularity. A year was split into 12 months, each consisting of 29 or 30 days, starting the month at the new moon, making a year roughly 364 days long. This design not only reflected their keen astronomical observations, but also perfectly suited the needs of an agricultural society. In farming communities, understanding seasonal changes was crucial. Sowing, harvesting, irrigation, every step depended closely on the seasons. The Sumerian calendar allowed them to predict seasonal shifts, arrange agricultural activities more effectively, and ensure stable food production and social order. In other words, their calendar was not just a tool for measuring time, but a secret weapon for the prosperity of agricultural civilization. Interestingly, the Sumerians also developed a base 60 mathematical system, whose influence persists to this day. Our time measurements, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, are their legacy. This shows that ancient calendars were more than just time standards. They deeply shaped many details of our daily lives that we now take for granted. The story of the Egyptian calendar is equally fascinating and full of wisdom. Like many ancient civilizations, the Egyptians initially based their calendar on the lunar cycle. However, through careful observation, they discovered a crucial astronomical phenomenon, the heliacal rising of Sirius, known as the Dog Star, closely coincided with the annual flooding of the Nile River. This coincidence was incredibly important for their agricultural society because the Nile's floodwaters deposited fertile silt, which was essential for bountiful harvests. Based on this discovery, the Egyptians defined the year as 365 days, dividing it into 12 months of 30 days each, and adding a special 5-day festival period known as the epagomenal days, or days upon the year. These 5 days were dedicated to celebrating the gods. This calendar design combined astronomical observation with practical agricultural needs, demonstrating the ancient Egyptians' deep respect for natural cycles and their clever adaptation of them. However, although this calendar seemed quite accurate, it still didn't perfectly match the solar year. The solar year is about 365.2422 days long, while the Egyptian calendar fixed it at 365 days. As a result, the calendar would drift about 1 day every 4 years, and over centuries, the dates slowly shifted, becoming out of sync with the actual seasons. This gradual mismatch eventually prompted later calendar reforms. Even so, the Egyptian calendar was extremely advanced for its time and became a foundational reference for many later civilizations. It was more than just a tool for measuring time. It was a brilliant fusion of astronomical observation and agricultural life. This calendar allows us to glimpse how ancient people mastered the mysteries of time by closely observing the sky and the land. Speaking of the Babylonians' contributions to calendar systems, their wisdom cannot be underestimated. Around 2000 BCE, building upon the Sumerian civilization's foundation, they further refined methods of calculating time. Did you know that the Babylonians invented the incredibly clever concept of the intercalary month, leap month? This innovation allowed their calendar to better align with the seasons. The problem back then was that the lunar cycle, about 29.5 days, and the solar year did not perfectly match. A lunar calendar with 12 months totaled only about 354 days, roughly 11 days shorter than the solar year. If left uncorrected, the seasons would gradually shift out of sync. For example, the spring planting season could drift into winter, which would be disastrous for an agricultural society. So, the Babylonians came up with a solution. Every few years, they inserted an extra month, what we now call a leap month, to make up for the discrepancy in time. This adjustment wasn't made arbitrarily. It was systematically determined based on careful astronomical observations. The Babylonians placed great importance on astronomy. They observed the stars to know exactly when to add the intercalary month, ensuring their calendar stayed aligned with the seasons. This was crucial not only for agriculture, but also for religious ceremonies. The brilliance of the leap month system was later adopted by many cultures, including the Chinese, Hebrew, and even Islamic calendars, all of which reflect this method of time adjustment. In a way, the Babylonian invention made calendars more flexible and better aligned with natural cycles, marking a significant leap in humanity's ability to master time. Speaking of the same era, the calendar system of the Maya civilization in Central America is truly awe-inspiring. They didn't just measure time simply. They created an incredibly complex and precise timekeeping system that perfectly intertwined religion, agriculture, and historical records. The Maya had a 260-day ritual calendar called the Tzolk'in, which was deeply rooted in their religious beliefs and ceremonies. This calendar divided time into special days, each with its own specific meaning and symbolism. It allowed them to hold rituals and important ceremonies based on celestial events and divine guidance. In addition to the Tzolk'in, the Maya used a 365-day solar calendar known as the Hab. This calendar closely aligned with the solar year and helped them organize agricultural seasons and daily life. The Hab consisted of 18 months of 20 days each, plus a special period of 5 unlucky days called the Wayeb, during which people were cautious and avoided important activities. Most fascinating of all was their calendar round, a 52-year cycle formed by combining the Tzolk'in and Hab calendars. After 52 years, the cycle would restart, allowing the Maya to record major historical events, dynastic changes, and even make prophecies. This cyclical timekeeping was a crucial element of their civilization and worldview. Speaking of the Chinese calendar, it's truly a story rich in history and wisdom. As early as around 2000 BCE, during the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties, the ancestors began using the lunar calendar to measure time. This calendar wasn't arbitrarily created. It was closely tied to nature and agricultural life. Particularly, the invention of the 24 solar terms made the Chinese calendar one of the most suitable calendars in the world for farming. These solar terms acted like a precise ruler for time, clearly marking the rhythms of spring sowing, summer cultivation, autumn harvest, and winter storage, enabling farmers to work according to the seasons and avoid many natural disasters. During the Qin dynasty, when Emperor Qin Shi Huang unified the 6 states, he not only standardized writing and measurements, but also integrated and regulated the calendar system. The Qin dynasty established a year of 12 months, each with 29 or 30 days, which essentially laid the foundation for today's Chinese lunar calendar. This calendar system took into account both the lunar cycles, phases of the moon, and the solar movement, making the whole system flexible yet scientific, accurately corresponding to seasonal changes. The leap month system in the lunar calendar was designed to bridge the gap between the lunar and solar calendars, preventing the calendar from drifting away from the seasons. By inserting an extra month every few years, the lunar year could be kept roughly in sync with the solar year. This ingenious design reflects the advanced level of ancient Chinese astronomy and wisdom. Not only was the Chinese lunar calendar crucial for agriculture, it was also deeply woven into folk culture and festivals, such as the Spring Festival, Chinese New Year, Lantern Festival, Dragon Boat Festival, and Mid-Autumn Festival. These celebrations are more than just markers of time. They are moments for family reunions, prayers, and well wishes. During the New Year season, every household pastes spring couplets, sets off firecrackers, and enjoys reunion dinners, filling society with a warm and lively atmosphere. Speaking of the ancient Roman calendar, it's truly mysterious and full of fascinating stories. Did you know that the original Roman calendar had only 10 months, totaling just 304 days in a year? Even more interestingly, the year didn't start in January, as we know today, but in March. This raises the question, why was March considered the first month of the year? Actually, the name March, Martius, comes from Mars, the Roman god of war. Mars symbolized both the beginning of spring and the start of the military campaign season. For the ancient Romans, spring was a time of renewal and rebirth, as well as the time to plan and launch wars. Naming the first month after the god of war not only conveyed a sense of power, but also perfectly matched the social and seasonal rhythms of the time. Next comes April, whose name comes from the Latin word abrile, meaning to open or to unfold. This perfectly captures the scene of spring awakening, when flowers begin to bloom and nature starts to flourish. May is named after the earth goddess Maya, who represents fertility and growth, symbolizing the earth's generosity and nurturing spirit. June takes its name from the goddess Juno, protector of marriage and family, which might explain why June has long been a popular month for weddings, symbolizing happiness and harmony. July and August were originally called Quintilis and Sextilis, meaning the 5th and 6th months. Pretty boring names, right? But later, to honor two very important figures, these months were renamed. July honors Julius Caesar, not just a political leader, but also a key reformer of the calendar. August is named after Emperor Augustus, who continued Caesar's reforms and solidified the foundation of the Roman Empire. Interestingly, January and February didn't originally exist in the Roman calendar, because winter was seen as a downtime after the busy farming season. There were no important agricultural activities requiring special month names. It was basically a blank period in time that no one paid much attention to. But in 713 BCE, Rome's second king, Numa Pompilius, thought this was too inaccurate and decided to add these 2 months, turning the year into 12 months, thus creating the January and February we know today. January is named after the two-faced god Janus, who looks both to the past and the future. This makes him a perfect symbol for the beginning and transition of the new year, as well as representing doors and gateways. Very fitting for the first month of the year. February, on the other hand, is associated with purification and rituals. During this month, the Romans held various cleansing ceremonies to prepare for the new year, a bit like a thorough spring cleaning to get ready for a fresh start. However, even after adding these 2 months, the Roman calendar was still not very accurate. At that time, the insertion of leap months was decided subjectively by Roman priests. This inconsistent approach often caused chaos, with months being added irregularly, leading to severe misalignment between dates and seasons. Sometimes, spring would even fall in winter, which understandably frustrated the farmers. To end this confusion, in 46 BCE, the great Julius Caesar initiated a major reform. Taking advice from the Egyptian astronomer Sosigenes, he introduced a more scientific and standardized calendar, the Julian calendar. This calendar set the year at 365 days, adding a leap day every 4 years to correct the earlier inaccuracies. This method greatly reduced the discrepancy between the calendar year and the solar year, making it the most advanced and accurate calendar system of its time. The design of the Julian calendar was truly a major breakthrough at the time. It set the length of the year to 365.25 days, 365 days plus an extra leap day every 4 years. This arrangement greatly improved the accuracy of the calendar. In other words, the extra quarter of a day each year was adjusted by adding a leap day every 4 years, bringing our calendar closer to the solar year cycle and making it easier to plan agricultural activities, religious ceremonies, and social events. However, the system still had a small flaw. The actual solar year is about 365.2422 days, slightly shorter than 365.25 days. This difference of 0.0078 days seems insignificant, but over time it accumulates. As a result, approximately every 128 years, the calendar would be off by one day compared to the real seasons, causing important seasonal markers and farming schedules to gradually drift. This date shift caused quite a bit of trouble throughout history. Speaking of the lengths of months, there's an interesting little story. In the 8th century AD, to emphasize his prestige, Emperor Augustus decided to adjust the lengths of certain months. He changed some of the less impressive shorter months to 31 days, borrowing one day from February. Consequently, February became the shortest month, with only 28 days in common years and 29 days in leap years. This adjustment ultimately created the order and lengths of months we see today. July and August both have 31 days, while February is the shortest. These adjustments may seem minor, but they have profoundly shaped the rhythm of our modern lives and our perception of time. Imagine if the lengths of months were inconsistent, or if the leap year system was flawed. Our daily schedules, festive celebrations, and even New Year countdowns would become chaotic and confusing. In this sense, the Julian calendar and its subsequent modifications represent not only innovations in timekeeping, but also milestones in the continuous progress of civilization. This is why today, most countries around the world use the Gregorian calendar, a historically rich, yet scientifically sound time standard that helps us synchronize the marking of each year's beginning and end. Although the Julian calendar was revolutionary in its day, its shortcomings became increasingly apparent over time. By the 16th century, the small inaccuracies had accumulated to the point that the calendar was about 10 days ahead of the actual solar year. Imagine Easter, which is supposed to fall after the spring equinox, suddenly occurring before it. This posed a serious problem for the Christian Church, as Easter is one of its most important holidays, and the date must be accurate. So in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII implemented a bold reform, introducing what we now call the Gregorian calendar. His solution was both clever and decisive. After October 4th of that year, the calendar jumped directly to October 15th, effectively cutting out 10 days. This adjustment immediately corrected the accumulated error and realigned the calendar with the solar year. In addition, Pope Gregory XIII introduced a more rigorous leap year rule. A year is a leap year if it is divisible by 4, but if it is a century year, such as 1700, 1800, or 1900, it must also be divisible by 400, like 1600 or 2000, to qualify as a leap year. This adjustment refined the average calendar year length from the Julian calendar's 365.25 days to a more precise 365.2425 days, drastically reducing the error so that it would take about 3,300 years for the calendar to be off by a single day. This level of accuracy was sufficient to meet the needs of several millennia. This calendar reform was quickly adopted by Catholic countries such as Italy, Spain, Portugal, and Poland, which immediately benefited from the improved accuracy and convenience, especially in managing religious holidays, agricultural cycles, and government administration. Of course, the implementation of the Gregorian calendar was not instantaneous worldwide. Due to religious and political reasons, some countries took decades or even centuries to adopt it. For example, Britain didn't fully switch until 1752, and Russia waited until 1918. This resulted in many interesting historical situations where different calendars coexisted simultaneously, providing valuable data for scholars studying the evolution of timekeeping. When it comes to Protestant countries accepting the Gregorian calendar, the history is truly full of drama. After all, this calendar was introduced by Pope Gregory XIII, the leader of the Catholic Church. So to Protestant communities at the time, it felt like political and religious outside pressure. Naturally, they were initially resistant. After all, who would willingly accept a system imposed by a rival religious authority? However, over time, practicality won out. accurate calendars made farming, trade, and even military campaigns far easier to plan, while chaotic calendars only caused headaches. England and its colonies didn't officially adopt the Gregorian calendar until 1752, and Greece followed even later, in 1923, reflecting how religious and political factors complicated the calendar's adoption. So, why did the Gregorian calendar eventually spread from Europe to become the global standard for measuring time? Beyond its scientific accuracy, there were several key historical forces driving this change. From the 16th to the 19th century, the great European powers set sail, embarking on the magnificent age of exploration. Spain and Portugal, the maritime giants of the era, led fleets of warships, merchant vessels, and colonists across the coasts of the Americas, Africa, and Asia, building vast colonial empires. As their territories expanded, these European countries didn't just bring currency, language, and religion. They also introduced their timekeeping systems and calendar, the Gregorian calendar, into the local societies. Thus, places like Mexico and Brazil in the Americas, the Philippines in Asia, and parts of Africa gradually adopted this calendar, synchronizing their timekeeping with Europe. You can imagine that back then, before the digital and globalized world we know today, having a common time standard was incredibly important, especially for managing territories across continents, organizing education, and coordinating religious activities. Europeans established schools and churches in their colonies to teach the local people how to use the Gregorian calendar. This wasn't just a tool for governance. It gradually shaped the daily rhythms of life in those regions. In areas dominated by Catholic influence, the Gregorian calendar became an indispensable religious time reference. As international trade grew more frequent, the flow of goods, capital, and information between countries increased dramatically. Coordinating time became the foundation of economic activity. Without a universally accepted calendar, scheduling ship departures, coordinating deliveries, or even setting financial market opening and closing times would have descended into chaos. Because of its scientific accuracy and practicality, the Gregorian calendar naturally became the preferred system for international communication, steadily securing its position as the global standard. Turning to the east, Japan represents another key turning point. In the late 19th century, the Meiji Restoration sparked a sweeping wave of westernization. The government was determined to break free from feudal constraints and introduce Western science and institutions. In 1873, Japan officially abandoned its traditional lunar calendar and adopted the Gregorian calendar. This was more than just a calendar reform. It symbolized Japan's resolve to become a modern nation. Turkey's example is equally fascinating. In 1926, as part of his sweeping modernization reforms, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk implemented a calendar reform, abolishing the Islamic lunar calendar and officially adopting the Gregorian calendar. This move not only unified the country's time standard, but also brought Turkey closer to Europe and the rest of the world, showcasing its determination to modernize. As for some Islamic countries in the Middle East and Africa, like Saudi Arabia and Egypt, although they still retain the Islamic calendar for religious activities, the Gregorian calendar has gradually become the official standard for government administration, education, and international relations. This dual calendar system reflects a delicate balance between tradition and modernity. Today, the Gregorian calendar has become the global standard for timekeeping. Whether it's work schedules, school holidays, international festivals, or multinational meetings, this calendar is indispensable. Speaking of New Year's celebrations, everyone is familiar with the lively countdown on the night of December 31st, fireworks lighting up the sky, and the joyful cheers as the final second ticks away welcoming the new year. Have you ever wondered why January 1st is chosen as the start of the new year? This custom is deeply rooted in the intertwining of the ancient Roman calendar and Christian traditions. Tracing back to ancient Rome, January 1st was originally the start of the new year, governed by Janus, the two-faced god who symbolized doorways and new beginnings. with one face looking back at the past and the other looking forward to the future. This day represented the transition between bidding farewell to the old year and welcoming the new one. As Christianity gradually became the state religion of the Roman Empire, January 1st not only retained its symbolic meaning as New Year's Day, but was also given a spiritual dimension by the Church. It became the day to commemorate the baptism of Jesus, symbolizing spiritual cleansing and rebirth. This fusion of religious and cultural significance enriched the customs of celebrating the new year on January 1st. However, different countries, based on their own historical backgrounds and folk traditions, have developed diverse ways to celebrate the new year. Japan's Joya no Kane is a great example. At midnight on December 31st, temples ring their bells 108 times. These 108 chimes represent the 108 earthly desires or troubles in Buddhism, and the ringing serves to drive away impurities and worries, welcoming a pure and peaceful new year. This deeply ritualistic event helps cleanse and renew the spirit as the old year transitions into the new. In China, New Year celebrations have two layers: the Gregorian New Year and the Lunar New Year. The Lunar New Year, known as the Spring Festival, is the most important traditional festival in East Asia. Unlike the Gregorian New Year, it usually falls between late January and mid-February, based on the lunar calendar's phases and solar terms. The Lunar New Year is filled with family reunions, reunion dinners, paying respects, and giving red envelopes, festive activities that symbolize renewal and hope. Meanwhile, the December 31st countdown of the Gregorian New Year carries more of a globalized and modern flavor. Together, these two celebrations complement each other, offering different cultural groups distinct moments to welcome the new year. Looking at Spain, there's a particularly fun tradition. On the night of December 31st, during the countdown, people eat 12 grapes within 12 seconds as the clock chimes. Each grape represents 1 month of the coming year, symbolizing good luck for the entire year ahead. This playful New Year's ritual not only brings excitement and tension, but is also full of hope and blessings. Scotland has its own unique New Year celebration called Hogmanay, which is the Scots word for the last day of the year. During Hogmanay, people sing, dance, visit friends and family, and participate in the first footing custom, where the first visitor to cross the threshold of a friend's or neighbor's home after midnight brings good luck. This tradition is not only about welcoming the new year, but also about strengthening community bonds. When it comes to global New Year celebrations, the most iconic and electrifying event is definitely the countdown party in New York City's Times Square. Every December 31st evening, hundreds of thousands of people gather there, waiting for the famous crystal ball, about 5.4 tons and made of crystal, to slowly descend. As the countdown reaches 3, 2, 1, fireworks explode and cheers erupt instantly, with millions more watching live on television around the world. This tradition began in 1907 and has since become synonymous with New Year's celebrations worldwide. Next, let's talk about Australia in the Southern Hemisphere, especially Sydney Harbour, which hosts a spectacular fireworks display every year. Because the seasons are reversed, Sydney's New Year's celebration takes place in summer, with people enjoying the warm evening by the harbour. The fireworks light up the entire harbour and the iconic Sydney Opera House, their brilliant reflections shimmering on the water, creating one of the most beautiful New Year scenes in the world. This grand event attracts countless tourists who come specifically to experience it. In Europe, London's New Year celebration is famous for the massive light show on the London Eye. As the countdown clock chimes, the giant Ferris wheel lights up with colorful illuminations, accompanied by bursts of fireworks. The whole Thames riverside is immersed in a dreamy spectacle of lights and music, offering a feast for both the eyes and the soul. Looking at these grand New Year celebrations around the world, they all showcase human creativity and passion in marking the arrival of a new year. They also highlight how New Year's acts as an important cultural exchange point globally. From ancient humans watching the moon and stars to measure time, to agricultural societies scheduling their activities by seasonal cycles, to the Roman systematization of time with the Julian calendar, and finally to Pope Gregory XII's reform that established the accurate Gregorian calendar. Humanity has spent thousands of years refining and improving timekeeping, leading to the widely adopted system we use today. Calendars are not just tools to record time. They are witnesses to the development of civilization and cultural exchange. New Year celebrations blend religious rituals, cultural traditions, and social customs, reflecting humanity's understanding and respect for time, carrying the value of cherishing life and hope for the future. Every countdown and cheer marks a moment when people bid farewell to the past and welcome new beginnings, weaving a shared chapter of time for all humanity. After watching today's video, don't you feel that the calendar we take for granted every day actually holds an incredible story? From ancient civilizations gazing at the stars thousands of years ago, to the globally unified Gregorian calendar used in modern society, it all testifies to human wisdom and the evolution of civilization. Whether you're interested in history and culture or curious about how different countries celebrate the new year, I hope this journey through time has enriched your knowledge and broadened your horizons. If you enjoyed today's topic, don't forget to like this video. Share your New Year's traditions or favorite holiday stories in the comments below, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We have plenty more fascinating facts waiting for you. Feel free to share this video with your friends and family, so more people can discover the secrets of time together.